Hello everyone and welcome back to Just Finish Coding. This is part 8 of our 3D Elf Run series which we're making on Scratch 3. So without further ado, let's get right into it.
Just finished coding.
Now I have to interject here that if you've not watched parts 1 to 7, please watch them before you come here because as you can see, I'm picking up from where I left off, and for this video to make sense, you need to watch the previous ones. I will leave a card for you right here. Please watch the videos and then come right back. If you're still here, I'm going to assume that you've watched parts 1 to 7, in which case you should have set up quite a bit of your game, and in this video we'll be dealing with the collisions between the player and any one of the obstacle clones. So let's get right into it. I'm first going to head over to the obstacles, and here you need to go to your clone update function. You probably have it a bit to your right, and that's where I'm going to go. So now we need to add in a couple of lines of code initially before we start changing the size. And in reality, all we are doing is checking for a bunch of conditions which are going to be true if the car is touching the player. So first of all, we need to make sure that the game over variable is set to no, because if it is set to yes, then it means that the collision has already happened, in which case we wouldn't want to repeat all of this once again. So first we check if this is the case. After this, we can grab another if then once again from the control section. This time what we need to do is to check for the lane. Now you do know that the car lane is very different from the player lane, and it's basically the opposite. So for example, for the player, the extreme left lane is going to be -1 and the extreme right lane is going to be +1, while for the car it's the other way around. So what we really need to do to figure out the correct lane is to just invert the sign. So we just make +1 as -1 in order to figure out the car lane. So I'm going to do that. So you can first grab an equal to here, and remember that we're comparing for the lane, so you can just put in the lane equals to quickly right there. And next what we need to do, like I mentioned, is to check for the negative. So you can either use a -1 times whatever I'm going to do, or you can just type in 0 minus whatever. Okay, so this will give you the same result, and the variable which we need to put there is the nearest lane of the player. So you're not going to find it within the variables category. You need to go to sensing instead. So now you can scroll down, and we've got to use the same trick which I used earlier on. You can change the stage to player, and you can also change the X position to be, I believe, nearest lane. There we go. So now you can throw this in just the way I'm doing so. And now we can get into the third and final if condition. And this time we're going to be checking if the X position of the car is very close to the X position of the player. So once again, you can grab a less than this time, and the margin for error in this case is going to be 60. So here, what 60 basically is we're discounting for the errors based on the player's width and also the car's width. So as it turns out, the car might have missed the first time because it was, I don't know, 61 or something, and then when it gets closer it's eventually touching, and as a result we are going to enter into the slope. So what we need to do is here we can use this absolute value operator, and this is going to make things a little bit more easy. So you have absolute value of, and within this you can use the X position of the car, and you also need to find out the X position of the player. So you can head over to sensing once again, or you can just duplicate the sensing block from there and change this to X position. Right, there we go. And now you need to discount the X position by 10 in order to make up for any errors, because remember, we're not using the X value of the player, we're really just using the X position all the time since the player is right at this point. So it's this variable which we need to use. So you can say X position minus 10, and that's going to be kind of the right way. Obviously it's not going to be perfect, so some collisions will be a little delayed while some collisions will be a little early, but it's going to give quite a good collision check. So you can just say X absolute value of X minus X position of player minus 10, and throw all of this into this first part of the operator. So if all of this is true, then we're just going to set game over to yes, and we can get into the sounds in the next video. So I'm not going to get into that right now. So you can set game over to yes. And that is pretty much it. So now you can, move this up and throw in all the code which you had originally. There we go, and I think I am done with the obstacles. Great, so next we can head over to our player, and within our player it's going to be, kind of simpler, but it's also going to be a little bit more complicated as we get into the animation. So first we need to make sure that the stick is set up properly and it has all the game over exceptions within it. So I'm going to change it a little bit. So I'm going to take out all of the code which we have, this entire script, and I'm going to put all of that inside an if else, okay? So just put it inside the if, and the condition we're going to have up there is if game over is equal to no. So if game over is equal to yes, then we're going to do a complete different thing, and that is where our animation starts to come in. So you can just say if game over is equal to no, and if this is not the case, I'm going to make a new block. You don't run without screen refresh, just leave it as it is. I'm going to call this ending animation, just click OK. We can move this block around later on, and you can just put this ending animation block within the else statement. So just drag and drop it like this. We also need to do one more thing, and that is to fix up another if then, okay? So grab an if then from the control section, and what you need to do here is check if show instructions of the instructions variable is set to yes. And this is basically where we're restarting all of the entire code when the player has already hit a car and the game is over. So the game is over, we automatically want the player to be back on the track after he's thrown out of the screen. And these two values are going to the value of these two variables is going to help in determining that. So first you can just say show instructions of instructions is yes. So once again we need to go to sensing in order to get the private variable, so instructions, and we need to change this to show instructions. There we go. And now you need to create two more variables. So the first one is x velocity, and the second one, you probably guessed, is y velocity. Both of them are going to be for the sprite only. So y velocity, and I will set it for the sprite only. Alright, so as it turns out, the variables aren't getting set up, and I think that's because my machine is currently overloaded at the moment. So I will check out what's going wrong in my system, and then I will be right back. Okay, so I'm back, and as it turned out, it was just a simple computer issue and the page wasn't responding at that moment. So I've got xvel and yvel set up right here, and what you need to do is set xvel and yvel to n, okay, and it's just an arbitrary character. You could set it to A, B, or whatever you want. It's just basically, not applicable. I guess that's the short form, but you just set it to some letter of your choice, and you have to remember that. So next we can get into the ending animation, and this is where things start to get a little bit more complicated, but it's still fine. You just have to understand what's really going on. So I'm going to drag this down here, and I'll move these two blocks of code to the side. So there we go, and let's put this here. So within this ending animation, I'm first going to make sure that the x value or the x velocity is indeed set to n, because if it's not set to n, then we obviously do not want to change the x velocity. We do not want to set the x velocity to something else. If it's already set, it means that the ending animation is in progress, and we don't want to restart the ending animation before it's finished. So we can first say if x velocity is equal to n. Then what we can do is we will first set the x velocity to be about -18. So we're moving on the left side, so x is going to be negative, but we're also going to be moving up, so y would be positive. So now I will set y velocity to be 12, and that would be it. Also add a go to front layer. So go to front layer. And within the else statement, all I'm going to do is change y velocity by 1, so that we go in a kind of curvy motion, just like the way my cursor is moving. So we'd want the person to go, since he's just been hit by a car, we want him to go up, we want him to rise up in the air, but then gravity slowly pulls him down and he keeps falling, closer and closer to the road, eventually going out of the screen. So all we have to do here is change yvel by -1. And next we can continue with the code. Okay, so in case yvel is less than 0, then what it means is that we're basically almost out of the screen. So if that is the case, and let me catch up very quickly. So if yvel is, Okay, I put an equal to, but what I really needed was a less than. So if y-val is less than 0, then we make sure that the player goes right to the back, and we'd make the cars come in front of them when they are passing by. So we can add in a go to, not really go to, we can say go backward, and no, 9999 layers. I'll say 999 layers. Okay, just go right to the back. After this, we need to make sure that the player, goes out of the screen smoothly. So to do this, we can't use just a normal change x by change y by. We need to change the size before that. So I will set size to 400. Then what I will do is I will say change x by x velocity, and I will also change y by y velocity. So change x by x val and change y by y val, and we will also turn x val degrees. So it's just a little bit convenient. We don't need another turn, I don't know, 12 degrees or 13 degrees. Xval just works out for everything. So you can duplicate Xval, and remember that we're turning clockwise degrees and not anti-clockwise degrees, and that's obviously a pretty important thing you need to put right there. Okay, so next we can set the size back to 100, and this is, pretty crucial. We need the size to be set back. And then we can just go next costume, so that the player still appears to be running, but he's basically thrown off in the air. So we can just put in a next costume here. And now I'm going to assume all of this is already done, and we're heading back into the game. So if we're heading back into the game, we need to start right at the middle. So what we can do is set target lane to 0, and we can also set the lane animation variable to the target lane, or in this case just 0, but I'm going to throw that variable in there. Now obviously you may think, why would we do this for every single tick of the ending animation? And the answer is we do not have to do so, but the controls aren't going to be within the player, so we'd have to put the kind of sensing thing in that particular sprite which we're doing it in, which I believe we already did, and I think all of that code is in the title. So here we set game over back to no once again, and this is where we'd have to restart everything. But the problem is, using that sensing trick, we can't set the variable to something. So as a result, we just have to settle in for doing it this way. We just set the variables to be their correct values for a bunch of additional times. So our code would have a slight reduction in speed, but it's going to be so tiny that no one's going to notice it. And as a result, there isn't really any problem with this. Okay, so I think that is pretty much all we need to do. So now I'm going to test this out. I'm going to move my player, and let's just see if we get hit. So there we go. We got hit perfectly. And once the title comes right back, our game restarts. You can also see that our score restarts as well. And as you can see our collision works perfectly. Now there was a slight glitch with the score, which we will fix in the next video. And all that's left with our game apart from that is making sure that the sound effects work properly. And I will be doing that in the next video, so please stay tuned for that. If you've enjoyed this video, please make sure you leave a like, and also don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.